Hello, year twos. Okay, are you ready for another week of reading the BFG? I certainly am. Before the weekend on Friday and Thursday, we were reading a chapter all about dreams, and it was all about the dreams that the BFG has caught and kept in jars. Can you remember some of those strange dreams, like the one where the little girl can make the lights go on and off just by thinking about it? The one where somebody's written a story and everybody is reading the story, even people like dentists or brain surgeons. That's not good, all at the same time as doing their work. Can you imagine? Dear me. There was also the one about the president bringing up the little boy and asking for his help. So, anyway, getting carried away. At the end of the chapter, we found out that the giants were off to England and they were going to go after all the little girls and little boys. And Sophie wanted to make a plan because she said we have to stop them. But the BFG wasn't so sure. Now, I have a feeling that they might actually be making a plan to try and stop them. Do you want to know how I know that? It's because chapter 15 is called The Great Plan. Okay. We've absolutely got to stop them, Sophie cried. Put me back in your pocket quick and we'll chase them and warn everyone in England they're coming. Ridiculous and impossible, the BFG said. They is going 2 times as fast as me, and they is finishing their guzzle before we is even halfway. But we can't just sit here and do nothing, Sophie cried. How many girls and boys are they going to eat tonight? Many, the BFG said. The flesh lump-eating giant alone has most squawking whoopsie appetite. Will he snatch them out of their beds while they're sleeping? Like peas out of a puddle, the BFG said. Oh, I can't bear to think about it, Sophie cried. Then don't, the BFG said. For years and years I is sitting here on this very rock every night when they is galloping away, and I is feeling so sad for all the human beings they is going to be gobbling up. But I has to get used to it. There is nothing I can do. If I wasn't a titchy little runty giant, only 24 feet high, then I would be stopping them. But that is absolutely out of the window. Do you always know where they're going? Sophie asked. Always, the BFG said. Every night they is yelling at me as they go bootling past. The other day they was yelling, "We's off to Mississippi and Missouri to guzzle them both." Disgusting, Sophie said. I hate them. She and the big friendly giant sat quietly side by side on the blue rock in the gathering dust. Sophie had never felt so helpless in her life. After a while, she stood up and cried out, "Oh, I can't stand it. Just think of those poor girls and boys who are going to be eaten alive in a few hours' time. We just can't sit here and do nothing. We've got to go after those brutes." "No," the BFG said. "We must," Sophie cried. "Why won't you go?" The BFG sighed and shook his head firmly. "I has told you 5 or 6 times," he said, "and the third will be the last. I is never showing myself to human beings. But why ever not? Well, if I do, they'll be putting me in the zoo with all the jiggy waffers and catty piddlers." "Nonsense," Sophie said. "And they will be sending you straight back to the orphanage." The BFG went on. "Grown-up human beings is not famous for their kindness. They is squiffle rotters and grink sludgers." "That simply isn't true," Sophie cried angrily. "Some of them are very kind indeed." "Who?" the BFG said. "Name one." "The Queen of England," Sophie said. "You can't call her a squiffle rotter or a grink squuggler." "Well," the BFG said, "you can't call her a squeak pip or a nut muncher either," Sophie said, getting angrier and angrier. "The flesh lump eater is longing dearly to guzzle her up," the BFG said, smiling a little bit now. "Who? The Queen?" Sophie cried, aghast. Yes, the BFG answered. Flesh Lumpeter says he is never eating a queen, and he thinks perhaps she has an especially scrumdiddlyumptious flavour. How dare he, Sophie cried. But Flesh Lumpeter says there is too many soldiers around her palace, and he daren't try it. He better not, Sophie said. He's also saying he would like very much to guzzle one of the soldiers in his pretty red suit, but he is worried about those big black furry hats they is wearing. He thinks they might be sticking in his throat. I hope he chokes, Sophie said. Flesh Lumpeter is a very careful giant, the BFG said. Sophie was silent for a few moments. Then suddenly, in a voice filled with excitement, she cried out, I've got it! By golly, I think I've got it! Got what? Asked the BFG. The answer, cried Sophie. We'll go to the Queen. It's a terrific idea. If I went and told the Queen about those disgusting man-eating giants, I'm sure she'd do something about it. The BFG looked down at her sadly and shook his head. She's never believing you, he said. Never in a month of Mondays. I think she would. Never, the BFG said. It is sounding such a wonky tall story. The Queen will be laughing and saying, what awful rub squatch. She would not. Of course she would, the BFG said. I has told you before that the human beings is simply not believing in giants. Well, it's up to us to find a way of making her believe in them, Sophie said. And how was you getting in to see the Queen anyway? The BFG asked. Now, hold on a sec, Sophie said. Just you hold on a sec, because I've got another idea. Your ideas is full of crodswoggle, the BFG said. Not this one, Sophie said. You say that if we tell the Queen, she would never believe us. I is certain she wouldn't, the BFG said. But we aren't going to tell her, Sophie said excitedly. We don't have to tell her. We'll make her dream it. That is an even more froth-buggling suggestion, the BFG said. Dreams is lots of fun, but nobody is believing in dreams either. You is only believing in a dream whilst you is actually dreaming it. But as soon as you is waking up, you is saying, oh, thank goodness it was only a dream. Don't you worry about that part of it, Sophie said. I can fix that. Never can you fix it, the BFG said. I can, I swear I can. But first of all, let me ask you a very important question. Here it is. Can you make a person dream absolutely anything in the world? Anything you like, the BFG said proudly. If I said I wanted to dream that I was flying in a bathtub with silver wings, could you make me dream it? I could, the BFG said. But how, Sophie said. You obviously don't have that exact dream in your collection. I do not, the BFG said, but I could be soon mixing it up. How could you mix it up? It's a little bit like mixing a cake, the BFG said. If you is putting in the right amount of all the different things into it, you is making the cake come out any way you want. Sugary, splongy curranty, Christmassy, or grob switchy. It's the same with dreams. Go on then, Sophie said. I has dillions of dreams on my shelves, left or right. Right, Sophie said. I has dreams about bathtubs, lots of them. I has dreams about silver wings. I has dreams about flying. So all I has to do is mix those dreams together in the proper way, and I is very quickly making a dream where you is flying in a bathtub with silver wings. Oh, I see what you mean, Sophie said. But I didn't know you could mix one dream with another. Dreams like being mixed, the BFG answered. They is getting very lonesome all by themselves in those glassy bottles. Oh, right, Sophie said. Now then, do you have dreams about the Queen of England? Lots of them, the BFG said. And about giants? Of course, the BFG said. And what about giants eating people? Squiggles of them, the BFG said. And about little girls like me? Those is commonest of all, the BFG said. I has bottles and bottles of dreams about little girls. And you can mix them all up, just as I want you to, Sophie asked, getting more and more excited. Of course, the BFG said. But how is this helping us? I think you was barking up the wrong dog. Now hold on, Sophie said. Listen carefully. I want you to mix a dream which you will blow into the Queen of England's bedroom when she is asleep. And this is how it will go. Now hang on a minute. the BFG said. How is I possibly going to get near enough to the Queen of England's bedroom to blow in my dream? You is talking dumb silly. I'll tell you that later, Sophie said. For the moment, please listen carefully. Here is the dream I want you to mix. Are you paying attention? Very close, the BFG said. I want the Queen to be dreaming that 9 disgusting giants, each one about 50 feet tall, are galloping to England in the night. She must dream their names as well. What are their names again? Flesh Lumpeater, the BFG said. Man-hugger, Bone Cruncher, Child Chewer, Meat Stripper, Gizzard Guppler, Maid Smasher, Blood Bottler, and the Butcher Boy. Let her dream all of those names, Sophie said, and let her dream that they will be creeping into England in the depths of the witching hour and snatching little boys and girls from their beds. Let her dream that they will be reaching into bedroom windows and pulling the little boys and girls out of their beds, and then, Sophie paused. Do they eat them on the spot, or do they carry them away first? She said. They is usually just popping them straight into their mouths like popcorn, the BFG said. Put that in the dream, Sophie said, and then the dream must say that when their tummies are full, they will go galloping back to giant country where no one can find them. Is that all, the BFG said? Oh, certainly not, Sophie said. You must then explain to the Queen in her dream that there is a big friendly giant who can tell her where all those beasts are living, so that she can send her soldiers and her armies to capture them once and for all. And now, let her dream one last and very important thing. Let her dream that there is a little girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill who will tell her where the big friendly giant is hiding. Where is he hiding? Asked the BFG. Oh, we'll come to that later, Sophie said. So the Queen dreams her dream, right? Right, the BFG said. Then she wakes up and the first thing she thinks is, oh, what a horrid dream. I'm so glad it was only a dream. And then she looks up from her pillow and what does she see? What does she see? The BFG asked. She said a little girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill right there in real life before her very eyes. How is you going to be sitting on the Queen's windowsill, may I beg? The BFG said. You are going to put me there, Sophie said. And that's the lovely part about it. If someone dreams that there is a little girl sitting on their windowsill, and then she wakes up and sees that a little girl really is sitting there, that is when a dream comes true, is it not? I is beginning to see where you is driving to, the BFG said. If the Queen is knowing that part of her dream is true, then perhaps she's believing the rest of parts of it are true as well. That's about it, Sophie said, but I shall have to convince her of that myself. You said you was wanting the dream to say there is a big friendly giant who is going to talk to the Queen. Absolutely, Sophie said. You must. You are the only one who can tell her where to find the other giants. Well, how is I meeting the Queen? Asked the BFG. I is not wanting to be shooted at her by her soldiers. The soldiers are only in front of the palace, Sophie said. At the back there is a huge garden and there are no soldiers there at all. There is a very high wall with spikes on it around the garden to stop people climbing in. But you could simply walk over that. How is you knowing all this about the Queen's palace? The BFG said. Last year I was in a different orphanage, Sophie said. It was in London and we used to go for walks around there. Is you helping me to find the palace? The BFG asked. I has never dared to go and hide and sneaking around London in my life. I'll show you the way, Sophie said confidently. I is frightened of London, the BFG said. Don't be, Sophie said. It's full of dark, dark streets, and there are very few people about in the witching hour. The BFG picked Sophie up between one finger and thumb and placed her gently on the palm of the other hand. Is the Queen's palace very big? He asked. Huge, Sophie said. Then how is we finding the right bedroom? Well, that's up to you, Sophie said. You're supposed to be an expert at that sort of thing. And you is absolutely sure the Queen will not put me in a zoo with all the caterpillars? Of course she won't, Sophie said. You'll be a hero and you'll never have to eat snozcumbers again. Sophie saw the BFG's eyes widen. He licked his lips. You mean it, he said. You really mean it? No more disgusting snozcumbers? You couldn't get one even if you wanted to, Sophie said. Humans don't grow them. That did it. The BFG got to his feet. When is you wanting me to mix this special dream, he asked. Now, Sophie said, at once. When is we going to see the Queen, he asked. Tonight, Sophie said, as soon as you've mixed the dream. Tonight? The BFG cried. Why such a flush-bunking flurry? Well, if we can't save tonight's children, we can anyway save tomorrow, Sophie said. What is more, I'm getting famished. I haven't had a single thing to eat for 24 hours. Then we better get cracking, the BFG said, moving back towards the cave. Sophie kissed him on the top of his thumb. I knew you'd do it, she said. Come on, let's hurry. And that is the end of chapter 15. Tomorrow, we are going to be reading chapter 16, Mixing the Dream. Oh, I'm excited. Right, I will see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye.